Have you ever had days where your mousepad just feels off? You know, it's the same mouse, the same pad, and the same sensitivity, but the glide just feels different. Sometimes it feels muddy, sometimes it feels faster at night, and the first thing we usually blame is the mousepad. And honestly, fair enough. But this is something that happens to almost all mousepads, but to me it started to come off as a bit of a pattern. So I decided that, you know what, instead of looking at it as a problem with the mousepad, I take a step back and zoom out a bit, and then the question becomes, is there anything I can actually control about the conditions of my room? And it turns out that I can with a dehumidifier. For context, I live in Singapore and humidity levels here are almost always 70 to 90%. So when I walk around, I'm not actually walking, I'm swimming. So most of the inconsistent experience on the mousepad comes down to humidity. Humidity changes how both materials and the skin behaves when it comes to friction. You see, when the air holds more moisture, surfaces become tackier, friction increases, and obviously mouse movement becomes less predictable. And most people would notice it over time as they are using the pad at different times of the day. With cloth pads, the effect of humidity is direct, and you know, cloth fibers absorb moisture from the air just like clothing does. So as humidity goes up, static friction goes up with it. And that's one of the things that makes micro adjustments feel more challenging. You know, glide changes day to day, and sometimes it can be quite annoying. I get annoyed myself. And to some extent, it's not easy to say that a pad is bad because everyone lives in different climates. And then there are glass pads. Glass pads don't absorb moisture, but your skin does react to it. Higher humidity means more sweat, which increases skin drag. You know, your forearm sticks more, you wipe the pad more often, and long sessions can be a little annoying. Of course, you can consider a gaming sleeve, but for work and casual use on your computer, I think most people would do without the sleeve for that purpose. So both cloth and glass are different surfaces, but they got the same root cause that affects the user experience. Now, dehumidifier doesn't fix your mouse pad, it stabilizes the environment around it. With my dehumidifier, I keep my room at a constant 55% humidity, and with this on cloth pads, the glide experience is more consistent. For glass pads, my skin stays drier, it doesn't get as sticky, and skin on glass glides much easier and movement feels more predictable. I mean, at least until my forearm starts to sweat, but for day-to-day work, it's totally fine. If you collect gaming peripherals, a dehumidifier would be a great thing to have because humidity slowly damages cloth pads, mouse internals, keyboard accessories, and even the packaging for a lot of the products. And by the way, for your information, mold starts forming at about 60% humidity, so if you're spending real money on peripherals, I think controlling the room conditions is an important part of protecting your stuff. Now obviously, there's also a positive effect on the room itself. Lower humidity makes the air feel less stuffy, it feels less dense, and it's a little easier to breathe, at least for me. By the way, with a dehumidifier, musty smells and damp fabrics don't get masked, they disappear over time. You really don't realize how uncomfortable your room is until it stops being uncomfortable. The last thing I want to mention is how it affected my sleep. And this is actually the main reason why I bought one. If you didn't know, well, I didn't know, so I'm sharing. High humidity makes it harder for your body to cool down. You sweat more, wake up more often, and never feel fully rested. With a dehumidifier running, it's a lot more cooling. I sleep deeper, have more vivid dreams, and wake up better rested. I'm just sharing this based on my experience with a dehumidifier in my room. I don't use the aircon, just humidity control and a fan. Now to wrap this up, as gamers, many of us love gaming peripherals and tech, but I think people need to see the room as part of a setup. You know, more than just whatever is on the desk. Now just remember, a dehumidifier won't make you a better aimer, at least not directly, but it removes a hidden variable that affects consistency and comfort. And I think if there are things that can make the gaming experience more comfortable, I think that is freaking awesome, especially for some of you who game after a long day of work. So for a gaming room or home studio, a dehumidifier might be the most underrated upgrade you make. I mean, if you don't already have one. Anyway, this is all I have for this video. If you found it helpful, please leave a like and consider subscribing. It really does help the channel a lot. So thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.